Toxic people don't always come with warning signs. Sometimes they come dressed as love, laughter, and loyalty. But the poison is in the pattern. This isn't about them anymore. This is about you choosing peace over chaos. Let me tell you how to leave toxic people behind and never look back. You know what hurts more than heartbreak? Staying loyal to someone who's silently breaking you, bit by bit. You keep shrinking to fit into their version of love. You keep apologizing for having standards. And at some point you forget that love should never feel like survival. So today, we stop surviving and we start rising. Let's talk about leaving toxicity behind and reclaiming your worth. They'll tell you to adjust, to forgive, to be the bigger person. But here's what nobody says out loud. You don't owe anyone your peace. Not your childhood friend who constantly drags you down with gossip, drama, or comparison. Not your partner who says, I love you, but leaves you empty every single night. Not that family member who uses their blood relation as a license to disrespect you. Your peace is not negotiable. It's not a bargaining chip. It's your lifeline. It's what lets you sleep at night, look in the mirror without hating your reflection, and walk through life without constantly checking your back. Ever been in a room with someone who doesn't say a word, but their energy drains you? You feel anxious, tight in the chest, restless. That's not love. That's not loyalty. That's not a mistake. That's your soul screaming, you're not safe here. You have the right to leave any place, person, or situation that shakes your inner stillness. Because protecting your peace is not weakness, it's wisdom. You go to work every day, deal with deadlines, traffic, expectations, society standards of perfection. And then you come home to someone who makes you feel small. No, life is already loud, already chaotic. You deserve peace when you walk through your own door. You deserve soft words, not sharp tongues. You deserve laughter that heals, not sarcasm that cuts. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you're at a dinner table. Everyone's laughing, passing dishes, sharing moments. But one person keeps cutting you off, mocking you, turning the conversation into a war zone. And you stay quiet. You smile through it. You think, maybe it's not that bad. But when you get home, your heart feels heavy. Your spirit feels bruised. And you replay every word like a wound. That's not dinner. That's damage. And you don't have to sit at that table again. You don't have to answer calls that spike your anxiety. You don't have to attend events that make you feel like an outsider. You don't have to smile through pain just to keep the peace. Because peace kept at the cost of your soul is in peace. How many of you wake up feeling tired even after 8 hours of sleep? It's not your body, it's your spirit. Exhausted from carrying the weight of people who don't value your worth. There are friends who clap when you rise, and then there are friends who only smile when you shrink. You need to know the difference. Toxic doesn't always mean violent. Sometimes it's subtle. The constant dismissals, the belittling jokes, the silent treatments, that boss who praises others but never sees you, that lover who gives affection only when they need something, that friend who disappears when you succeed but reappears when you fall. Start listening to how people make you feel, not just what they say. Because words can lie, but energy never does. You deserve to walk into a room and feel free. You deserve to share your wins without shrinking them. You deserve to be heard, not just tolerated. And if someone's presence makes you question your worth, your value, or your sanity, then their absence will be your healing. Peace isn't found in a yoga class or on a vacation. It's found in the decision to no longer entertain anything that robs you of your glow. So next time someone asks you to keep the peace, tell them, I already am. That's why I left. Don't argue, observe. This one truth can save you years of pain, energy, and emotional exhaustion. Because when people show you who they are, over and over again, you don't need to argue for the truth. You just need to see it. Think about how often we waste time explaining ourselves to people who've already decided not to understand us. You defend your intentions. You replay conversations in your head. You write long texts trying to clarify what you meant. But here's the truth no one tells you. People who care don't need to be convinced. And people who don't won't care no matter how well you explain. So stop arguing, start observing. Watch how they react when you say no. Watch how they treat you when you're not useful to them. Watch how they speak about others when they think no one's listening. Because that's how they speak about you, too. And the words you speak, watch how they speak about you, too. You ever notice how someone will twist your words, flip the script, and suddenly you're the villain in their narrative? That's not miscommunication. That's manipulation. And arguing with a manipulator is like wrestling with smoke. You'll never win. You'll just lose yourself. A friend once shared a story. She was dating a man who always made her feel like she had to prove her love. If she didn't text fast enough, he accused her of being distant. If she went out with friends, he said she was avoiding him. She kept arguing, defending, pleading, until one day she stopped talking and started watching. She noticed how he never apologized, but expected her to. How he demanded loyalty, but flirted with others. How he loved control, not her. The moment she switched from reaction to observation, she saw the truth. And she walked away without a word. You don't need to expose anybody. You don't need to fight every lie. Just observe. Because the ones who are pretending will always slip. Consistency reveals character. Time reveals truth. There's a power in silence that most people underestimate. Because silence doesn't mean weakness, it means strategy. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding their ego. When you stop explaining, you stop giving them ammunition. When you stop playing their game, you start playing your own. Think about it in everyday life. At work, someone keeps taking credit for your ideas in meetings. Don't argue, observe. Document. Speak when the time is right, not when you're triggered. In friendships, someone only reaches out when they need something. Don't argue. Observe. Give less, step back, and see if the connection holds. In relationships, your partner gets defensive every time you express a need. Don't argue. Observe. See if it's love or control. People can wear masks for a while, but they can't pretend forever. Your job isn't to rip the mask off. It's to stop pretending you don't see it. You'll notice a shift the moment you stop explaining yourself. You'll start hearing things more clearly. Not just what they say, but what they don't. You'll start seeing the red flags you once painted green. And you'll realize you never needed to convince anyone. You just needed to trust your observation. Because arguing is emotional. Observation is intelligent. Arguing drains your energy. Observation builds your wisdom. Arguing invites chaos. Observation invites clarity. When someone tries to trigger you, stay calm. Watch. Let them expose themselves. When someone lies to you, don't scream. Note it. Keep receipts. Let time do what shouting does. Let it become a moment for you to see how far you have fallen from your goal. Force them. Your silence will be louder than any lecture. In this world of noise, the most powerful move is to watch quietly and walk away smartly. Because silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. Boundaries are not walls, they're bridges that lead to self-respect. They're not selfish, they're sacred. They're not about shutting people out, they're about keeping yourself safe. When you say, I don't allow disrespect, 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 when you say, there are no assets to somebody, you're keeping yourself out. When you say, no, I won't tolerate this anymore, you're not being difficult. You're declaring that you matter. Too many people walk through life saying yes when their soul is screaming no. They attend dinners they dread. They pick up calls that leave them drained. They say it's okay even when their spirit is crushed. All because they were taught that being liked is more important than being respected. But listen closely. Every time you betray your own boundaries to keep the peace, you create a war inside yourself. And that war shows up in the form of anxiety, fatigue, emotional burnout, and even anger at yourself. The cost of pleasing everyone is losing yourself. And no relationship is worth that price. Imagine someone constantly barges into your room without knocking. The first time, you laugh it off. The second time, you tell them politely. The third time, they roll their eyes and call you too sensitive. You start wondering, am I overreacting? But pause and ask yourself, if they can't respect a door, how will they respect your heart, your emotions, your limits? Boundaries are not about keeping love out. They're about filtering out what isn't love. In everyday life, it shows up like this. You work overtime, and someone still calls you lazy. You stay silent during family fights, and they say you're cold. You take a day off for mental rest, and someone calls you dramatic. Why? Because people benefit when you have no boundaries. Because when you're exhausted, you're easier to control. But the moment you say, no more, the game changes. A girl I knew used to always say yes. Yes to extra shifts, yes to driving her friends everywhere, yes to favors, even when it broke her back. Until one day she ended up in the hospital. Burned out, exhausted, emotionally wrecked. No one visited, no one checked in. And that's when she realized the people who loved her convenience disappeared the moment she became inconvenient. She came out of that hospital with a word she had never used before. No. And with it, a quiet strength that made the wrong people uncomfortable and the right ones respectful. Setting boundaries isn't about being rude. It's about being clear. It's about telling people, this is how I want to be treated. This is what I allow in my space. This is what I will not tolerate. Think about your phone battery. If you run 10 apps at once, your phone dies. Now imagine your mind, your energy, your heart, constantly running 10 conversations, 5 arguments, 3 expectations, and no space for yourself. And you wonder why you feel tired all the time? Boundaries are how you close those apps. They're how you say, I need to protect my peace because I can't serve from an empty soul. When you love someone, you set boundaries with them, not against them. You don't set them because you want distance. You set them because you want depth. Because a relationship without boundaries is just chaos dressed in affection. The next time someone calls you too much for standing up for yourself, remember, their comfort does not come before your dignity. You are not here to be easy to swallow. You are here to be whole. And people who truly love you will never be offended by the space you take to love yourself first. Guilt is their favorite weapon, not because you did something wrong, but because they know you care. And the more you care, the easier it is for them to pull the strings. They don't need chains to trap you. They just whisper, after everything I've done for you? And suddenly, you freeze. It starts small. You say no, and they act disappointed. You make a choice for yourself, and they call you selfish. You try to set a boundary, and they remind you of every favor they ever did. Sound familiar? They'll paint themselves as the victim, so they can make you feel like the villain. And the moment you feel guilty, you hand them control. Imagine this. A woman works 2 jobs, raises her siblings, takes care of her aging parents. One day, she takes a weekend off for herself. She turns her phone off, books a hotel, and just breathes. By Sunday night, her inbox is full. Must be nice to run away. We needed you. I guess we know where your priorities are now. She did nothing wrong. But guilt? Guilt makes her question if taking care of herself was a betrayal. That's what manipulators want, not your freedom, but your obedience. They know you're loyal, they know you're kind, they know you'll replay every word they say, like a song stuck on repeat. So they press guilt like a button and watch you fold. You fold. You didn't visit them last week? You don't care about family anymore? You didn't lend money this time? Wow, I thought we were friends. You finally spoke your truth? Why are you always starting drama? No matter what you do, it's never enough. Because they're not looking for love, they're looking for control. But guilt loses its power the moment you realize you have a right to choose yourself. You can be grateful and say no. You can be kind and have boundaries. You can walk away from people who drain you, even if they once fed you. Because someone once gave you a ride doesn't mean you owe them your whole journey. Because someone once helped you up doesn't mean you let them drag you down. And because someone calls you family doesn't give them the right to make you feel like you're never enough. A girl once told me, my mother guilted me every time I said no. Even as an adult, I'd skip vacations, cancel plans, say yes just to keep her happy. But the more I gave, the more she took. Until one day I asked myself, why does love always feel like obligation? And that's when I stopped explaining, I started healing. You owe people kindness, not submission. You owe people love, not sacrifice of your soul. And most importantly, you owe yourself the freedom to say, I'm not going to carry guilt for choosing peace. You are not responsible for other people's reactions to your truth. If your no offends them more than your exhaustion ever did, that's all the clarity you need. Watch who gets angry when you stop letting guilt guide you. That's usually the person who benefited the most from your silence. They'll say you changed. They'll say you're cold. But growth always feels like betrayal to those who only loved you for what you gave them. Here's the power move. Instead of arguing, observe. Healing isn't revenge, it's freedom. Real freedom. The kind that doesn't need a witness, the kind that doesn't demand applause or validation. Because healing is not about proving anything to anyone. It's about finally being able to breathe without the weight of the pain they gave you. Instead of defending, decide. And instead of carrying guilt, carry grace for yourself. You are allowed to outgrow manipulation. You are allowed to be the hero of your own story, not the emotional hostage in someone else's script. When they say you've forgotten who was there for you, you look them in the eye and say, no, I remember everything. That's why I'm walking away now. You see, when someone breaks your heart, betrays your trust, or belittles your worth, the world teaches you to show them, to glow up, to flex, to prove. But real healing, it doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't post a highlight reel. It's the quiet strength of not needing one. Think about it. You're walking down the street. You see someone who once hurt you deeply. Years ago, that one person made you feel like you were nothing. You still teach you that one person made you feel like you were nothing. You used to daydream about bumping into them, looking flawless, successful, untouched by the chaos they left behind. But today you just walk by, no smile, no tears, no second glance. That silence is healing. That is power. Because healing says, I no longer need to carry your name in my story to feel worthy. Let's talk about the girl who was cheated on, lied to, manipulated, and left broken. She didn't post cryptic quotes. She didn't rush into another relationship to get back at him. She went offline. She worked out. She read books. She healed quietly. Months later, she walked into a room glowing. Not because she wanted him to see, but because she finally saw herself. She didn't get revenge by making him jealous. She got freedom by making peace with herself. There's a difference between moving on and moving up. Moving on is physical. You change your surroundings, your routine, maybe your number. But moving up is emotional. You change your mindset, your energy, your standards. And that's what healing is. Emotional evolution. The moment you stop asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, what did this teach me about me? You begin to reclaim your power. One day you stop stalking their profile. You stop replaying the arguments in your head. You stop scripting what you'll say if you ever meet again. Because healing isn't loud, it's when you no longer need closure from the person who broke you. It's when you realize the apology you were waiting for will never be enough anyway. A guy I knew once said, I'm going to show her what she lost. So he hit the gym, bought a car, changed his style. But the truth? He still checked her. He still has a list. He still has a goal. Profile at midnight. He still talked about her like a scar that wouldn't close. That's not healing. That's ego wearing a costume. Healing isn't about showing them you've moved on. It's when you stop caring if they ever know. Freedom is sleeping at night without rehearsing pain. Freedom is trusting someone new without punishing them for what the last person did. Freedom is choosing peace, not proving points. They may never admit what they did. They may walk around like nothing happened. But you don't need their guilt to heal. You don't need their remorse to rise. Because the moment you understand that your healing is for you, not them, is the moment you become untouchable. So let them wonder why you're glowing. Let them hear about your peace from other people. Let them sit with the silence you leave behind. You're not better because they hurt you. You're better because you refuse to stay hurt. And that's the greatest power of all. Not revenge, not bitterness, but peace that no one can touch. Leaving isn't weak, it's warrior work. It takes courage the size of mountains and a heart that's been through storms to say enough is enough. Because leaving is not about running away. It's about standing up for yourself when the world tells you to stay and endure. It's about breaking the chains that bind you, even when everyone expects you to keep carrying the weight. Think about a soldier on the battlefield. Leaving the fight isn't surrendering. It's strategic retreat. A move to survive, regroup, and come back stronger. In life, leaving toxic relationships, draining friendships, or harmful environments is no different. It's a battle fought silently inside you, with every fiber of your being screaming to stay, because the familiar pain feels safer than the unknown freedom. There was a young woman I knew, brilliant, kind, but trapped in a relationship where every word she spoke was twisted and every smile was met with coldness. People told her, stick it out, love takes work. But what they didn't see was the daily battle she fought, the nights spent crying silently, the pieces of herself she lost trying to keep peace. One day, she decided to leave, not because she was weak, but because she was strong enough to choose herself over the noise. She packed her bags, walked away from comfort and history, and in that moment became a warrior. Leaving means you value your peace more than their approval. It means you refuse to be a victim in your own story. It means you acknowledge the pain, respect it, but refuse to let it define you. It's not easy to walk away from what you know, but it's braver to step into what you deserve. Consider the story of the man working in a toxic office. Every day he was belittled, undervalued, and ignored. Friends told him, keep your head down. It's just work. But every night, the stress stole his sleep and joy. Finally, he resigned, choosing uncertainty over slow poison. That resignation was an act of war against the limits others put on him. Leaving that toxic space was not a defeat. It was reclaiming his dignity. We live in a culture that glorifies endurance. Stay strong, don't quit. But true strength is knowing when to quit the things that break you. It's knowing when to close doors others expect you to keep open. Because sometimes leaving is the ultimate self-love. Leaving means saying no to endless apologies without change. Leaving means no more. Begging for respect that was never given. Leaving means trusting yourself enough to believe there's a better life beyond the chaos. Imagine a student trapped in a major they hate, pressured by family to continue. Every class feels like a cage. One day, they drop out and follow their passion for art. People call it reckless, foolish. But in that choice lies courage. A warrior's move to live authentically rather than survive silently. You talked about courage a lot. Life is not always game. We all live with risks and rewards. I taught myself that a world to be violent and angry would never be allowed to happen. I lived all along. Life was brought in. They wanted me to fail, to lie. Warriors don't just fight on battlefields. They fight in boardrooms, in relationships, in their minds. They fight the urge to stay safe in pain. They fight the fear of judgment. They fight their own doubts and insecurities. And when they finally leave what no longer serves them, they don't run away. They run toward themselves. Leaving also means embracing uncertainty. It's stepping into the unknown with faith that what's waiting is better than what you're leaving behind. It's trusting that your worth isn't tied to a place, a person, or a painful pattern. There was a woman who stayed in a friendship that drained her soul because she feared loneliness. One day, she chose solitude over toxicity. And in that solitude, she found herself again. She became her own best friend. That too is warrior work. Choosing your own company over empty companionship. Leaving is not about weakness. It's about the fiercest kind of strength. It's about saying to yourself, I deserve better. I am worth more than this pain. I am enough without them. It's about writing a new chapter where you are the hero, not the victim. So every time you think leaving is cowardly, remember the warriors who fought battles nobody saw, the battles within. Leaving is the battle cry of a soul reclaiming its power, its peace, and its purpose. You've heard it today. The truth that leaving isn't weakness, but the fiercest form of courage. Now imagine your life as a canvas and every choice you make as a brushstroke painting your masterpiece. When you choose to walk away from what harms you, you are not just erasing the pain. You're creating space for greatness, joy, and limitless possibility. Remember, sometimes the hardest part isn't letting go, but learning to start over. And starting over is not a sign of defeat. It's a declaration of strength. In the words of the great Maya Angelou, you may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. Don't let anyone, not even your own fears, reduce you. Stand tall, knowing that every step away from toxicity is a step toward your freedom. Because freedom is the birthright of every soul brave enough to claim it. Think about the stars. They don't compete with the darkness. They simply shine brighter. Be that star. Shine so fiercely that your light becomes a beacon for others lost in their own shadows. You have the power to illuminate your path and inspire others to find their courage, to find their peace, and to find their own way out of the darkness. Remember, your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change. Change is never easy, but it is necessary. When you leave behind what no longer serves you, you're choosing growth over stagnation, love over fear, and peace over chaos. And that choice, that choice is where transformation begins. It's often said, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes, courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. So if today you're feeling weak, tired, or scared, know that courage is still within you. It whispers to keep moving forward, keep believing, keep fighting, not for others, but for yourself. You don't owe anyone your tears, your time, or your heart. You owe it to yourself to be whole, to be happy, and to be free. The most courageous act is still to think for yourself. You know, you shouldn't get into ruts because it's a waste of time. You have to look at things and turn things around. Not for others, but aloud. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. Choose yourself boldly, unapologetically, and with relentless love. There will be days when the past tries to pull you back, when doubt creeps in and whispers, maybe you were wrong to leave. But remember this, don't be pushed around by the fears in your mind. Be led by the dreams in your heart. Your dreams are the compass, guiding you to a life filled with dignity and joy. hold on to them fiercely. The warrior within you is not measured by how long you stay in battle, but by how bravely you choose to rise and walk away when the fight no longer serves your soul. Because leaving is not giving up. It's the ultimate act of self-respect and survival. So as you step into your future, carry this with you. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. The power to heal, to grow, and to create a life you love is already inside you. Your worth is not defined by those who hurt you, but by the strength it takes to leave and live on your terms. Go forward knowing this is your moment. The moment to reclaim your peace, power, and your purpose. The moment to rewrite your story with courage as your ink and resilience as your guide. You are the author of your destiny. And today, you choose to write a chapter filled with freedom, light, and unstoppable strength. As the great Nelson Mandela said, the greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Rise, shine, and walk away knowing that you are a warrior. A warrior who leaves not out of weakness, but out of incredible, unbreakable strength. The world is waiting for your light. Let it shine brighter than ever before.